Summerside. So happy to be here. Of course, as kids, we learn all about your province. This is where Canada began as a confederation, but I'll have to tell you that I remember vividly this province because it's the first province that gave me an honorary degree. And I had flown into PEI from Tunisia, where I picked up a bug, and that was the longest ceremony I've ever had. Very, very memorable, but I am delighted to be back, this time healthy and not having to put a plug up and I want to acknowledge and thank the original people who lived on this part of the Blue Dot and cared for it over thousands of years. I want to thank Mother Nature for so generously providing all we need for life and well-being. Clean air, clean water, clean soil and food, clean energy from the sun, and the rich diversity of life that shares the planet with us. I thank the David Suzuki Foundation for asking me to join this tour. Actually, that's a lot of baloney. If they didn't, I would have been really pissed off. It was my idea anyways. But I had to say that. But I do want to thank the many musicians, the artists, the writers and thinkers, as well as the partners and sponsors, and so many volunteers who care enough to donate their talent, their time, and their money to join us on this tour. And I thank all of you. Thank you so much for coming out and being part of this initiative this evening. I'm not here to speak on behalf of any group or organization. I speak to you this evening as a grandfather and as an elder. You know, elders have a very special place in society. We're no longer subject to the pressures and temptation of power or money or fame. Well, I know there are a few elders that try to do that, but they need help. And elders don't have to worry about losing a job or not getting a promotion or a raise. We can speak the truth from our hearts without worrying about offending anyone. And elders have something no other group in society has. We've lived an entire life. We've made mistakes, we've suffered failures, we've celebrated successes. We've learned a lot. And those hard-won lessons are priceless. Lessons worth passing on to our grandchildren and their grandchildren. And that's what I'm trying to do tonight on the Blue Dot Tour. Our tour is named for that magnificent, whoops, it's not there anymore, image of Earth as seen from space. Astronauts, on seeing our fragile blue planet from a distance, often undergo a profound shift in perspective, sometimes referred to as the overview effect. Apollo 14's Edgar Mitchell said, and I quote, "You develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it." The Blue Dot Tour is about many people coming together to do something about it. As humans, we pass our knowledge on through stories. We define ourselves through the stories we share. And increasingly, science informs those stories. Today, science informs us that we are at a unique and critical moment in all of human existence. Very suddenly in evolutionary time, we have become a new kind of force on the planet. We have occupied every continent, and our numbers have grown so large that we are now the most numerous mammalian species on Earth. There are more of us than any rat or any mouse or rabbit species. We are the dominant mammalian species. And modern technology takes us to every nook and cranny of Earth in search of new opportunities and fuels a global economy that feeds our voracious appetite for more stuff. We dominate the earth now with a huge ecological footprint, so large that we are altering the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the planet on a geological scale. That's why scientists now call this the Anthropocene epoch, the time in geological history when we have become the dominant force affecting the planet. But in the process, we are undermining the life support systems of Earth. For most of our existence, people understood that we were deeply embedded and utterly dependent on nature for our survival and our well-being. But that began to change a few centuries ago when European explorers found new lands which offered new frontiers and opportunities. My grandparents were part of that ongoing migration to new lands when they came here from Japan at the beginning of the 20th century. They were driven from Japan because of extreme poverty. And that poverty was so great that they took the risk, a perilous trip across the Pacific, to come to these new lands. When my grandparents left home, there were no telephones for trans-Pacific phone calls. There were no airplanes or computers. They knew they were never going back. The Canada they moved to in the early 1900s was built on policies of colonization, extermination, or assimilation of the original peoples. And those policies continue to this day. My grandparents and my Canadian-born parents, like all others of color and all Indigenous people, couldn't vote, couldn't buy property in many places, or enter most professions. My father was born in Vancouver in 1909, my mother in 1911. Like the first generation of colonizers born in new lands all over the world, they grew up without grandparents or elders. Unlike the Indigenous people whose oral history goes back thousands of years, my parents had no roots in this new world. So they acquired the attitude of their parents who had come here for opportunity. They were taught, work hard to make money, to buy land. If there were fish on the land, catch them and sell them. If there were trees on it, cut them down and sell them. If there was good topsoil, grow vegetables and sell them. If there were minerals, dig them up and sell them. Buy land, develop it, sell it, and move on. That is the cultural background into which I was born, and it is so for many Canadians. But it leads to a very different relationship with the land from people who have occupied the same place for millennia. My perspective began to shift when I started meeting and working with Indigenous people across Canada, but also in South America, in Africa, in Australia, and even in Japan. They have taught me my most profound lessons about connectedness to and reverence for place. Now, although my parents lacked deep roots to their adopted homeland, they did come through the Great Depression of the 1930s. And that gave them other lasting and important values which they drummed into us as we were growing up. With homilies like, live within your means, save some for tomorrow, help your neighbors because someday you may need their help, share, don't be greedy. You need to work hard to make money to buy the necessities in life. But a big car or fancy clothes don't make you a better or more important person. Somehow today those lessons seem rather quaint, and I think they lie forgotten long ago. So today, many of us, I believe, are living a lie. We think we're a big country. And while geographically it is true, we are. But much of Canada is covered in rock, snow, and ice. And most Canadians live in that little thin band huddled against the border with the United States. We do treasure wilderness and pristine nature as part of our identity, yet most of us live in cities and spend less and less time even outside. We think that what we do to the environment in our provinces and our country is our business and nobody else's. But as we learned from Chernobyl and Fukushima, air and water do not stay within human boundaries. And fish, mammals, birds, insects, and plants pay no attention to our borders. We think we are an environmentally progressive country. Yet 1 in 2 Canadians lives in unhealthy air. Our oceans are a mess. And our forests are disappearing rapidly. And internationally, we are regarded as environmental pariahs, piling up Fossil of the Year awards year after year. I've seen enormous changes during my life, and many have been absolutely wonderful. But those changes have also been accompanied by costs, which we too often rationalize as the price of progress. I think we need a different measure of progress. I remember a time when nature was abundant, much more pristine. I was born in Vancouver in 1936, when the global population was around 2.2 billion people. I never imagined that within my lifetime, the world population would more than triple. Can you imagine?